Welcome to Spenelli Speaks. Hi everyone, Danny here. Welcome back to my channel. It is the 31st of July, which means this is the last video of Danny's birthday month. I have officially done a video every single day in the month of July. Happy birthday to me. Wow, what a month. Boy, oh boy. Now, I have already done a review of the month as a whole, so I'm not going to review any of that. You can check that video out. I'll put a card above. So today is just my wrap up, and I'm not even going to talk about the books that I didn't read or that I decided to stop reading, because let's just get into the books that I did actually get to read this month. If you are new here, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me. If you started watching me during this crazy month, I don't typically post every single day. My normal days are Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, so stay tuned. There will be a video tomorrow because it's Saturday, my regular programming. So I'm just going to talk about the books that I did actually read because of the way that the month kind of went down as far as me putting a video up every day and trying to keep up with that. I didn't read as much as I thought I was going to, but I did still get a lot of books through. I had a couple of buddy reads out there, so I did read quite a bit, and I did have some really good books this month. Now, in all, I read 8 books, which is actually pretty good. I mean, most people don't read 8 books in a year, so I'm pretty proud of that. I did read, looks like 5 physical books and 4 audiobooks. One of those, it was both. Like, I started reading it in physical format and then changed over to audiobooks. So we'll kind of get into that as we go. Per the usual, I'm going to start with my 3-star reviews. And the first 3-star review that I'm going to talk about is a book that I actually read with my book club, which is Teresa Driscoll's I Am Watching You. 3 stars. I feel like this might be a debut novel because I almost felt like it was a bunch of puzzle pieces put together, almost like mechanical devices. Like, here's a bunch of characters and here's how they all fit together to make this book work. Now, I still did give it 3 stars. It was good. I enjoyed my reading of it. The pacing was really good. Each chapter was a different point of view from different characters. So basically what this book is about is a woman is on a train going into London, and she notices 2 teenage girls are talking to 2 men. Through the conversation, she finds out that they are 2 men that have recently been released from prison. The next day, it turns out that one of the young girls have gone missing. So she is racked with guilt of the fact that she did not say anything. So it's a year later, and the appeal is about to happen where they are going to reopen the case and try to find out, is this girl still alive? Where is she gone? What happened to these two men from prison? And yeah. We get a lot of backstory from a lot of these characters, which I feel was unnecessary. There are also full-on characters that seem unnecessary. So overall, I felt like the book was kind of redundant almost, but I mean, it was still good. I really liked the pacing. When I can blast through a book, I really like that. And it did have some attributes, but overall I just felt like there were a lot of pieces that just didn't fit. I felt like it's almost as if the author just had a bunch of characters in her head and she just put them all in one book, because I felt like some of these could have been their own stories on themselves. But yeah, so overall I gave this one a 3. The next book I gave a 3 was Breakfast at Tiffany's, which is a really short book. I would even call it a novella. And I did do a rapid review of this, so I'll link that in the cards above. So if you want to check that out, definitely do that. I was really disappointed by this, mostly because I have grown up watching the movie. Almost wish that I hadn't, because I wasn't able to appreciate this as much as I would have liked. The character Holly Golightly is not the same character as she is in the movie, which I have fallen in love with that Holly Golightly. So the Holly Golightly that's in the actual novella is not the same character. I mean, there are certain pieces, but it's not the same person. She's very flawed. And in most cases, that's a great thing because it shows characterization. You have a lot of depth within that character. But because I have grown up with Audrey Hepburn's version of Holly Golightly, this just really fell flat for me. So I'm really discouraged by that, because that really stinks. I don't want you to think that this is a bad book. I definitely recommend reading it and making your own decision. Unfortunately for me, boy, was not what I was expecting. So on to the 4-star reviews. And the first 4-star review was my series of unfortunate events, The Vile Village. So this is book 7 of a series of unfortunate events. I actually did this as a buddy read with my good friend Christy over at Christy Lewis Dostoevsky in Space. And I don't know, I told you guys in a previous video, like, I annotated this and I couldn't tell you what these tabs mean. So things that just popped out to me, or I was trying to keep track of all the rules, and yeah. So overall, definitely 4 stars. We get a little bit more depth on the VFD, which is something that we've kind of been alluded to, but we don't quite sure know what it means. Some characters pop out in here. There's definitely some interesting law enforcement in this book. And the end of this book is really interesting because this is almost the beginning of the rest of the series. And I think it really gets super dark from here. So I'm interested to continue on to book 8, which is The Hostile Hospital, and see where the children go. And I have to thank subscriber Erica for pointing out, in my vlog mentioned that the timing is really confusing in this book. Like, how is time proceeding? How is time progressing? And she pointed out that she thought that each book represented like a month of the year. And that makes a lot of sense because there are 13 books, and it's almost as if each piece is so much closely knit together that would make total sense. So thank you, Erica, for pointing that out. That really helped me kind of put together things in my mind of how time is represented. So I really truly appreciate that. You know, I read each and every one of your comments, and I love interacting with everyone. So if you have something to say, please make sure you comment, because I'm definitely reading it. The next 4-star review is another buddy read that I did with my friend Josh over at Working Man Reads. I read Sense and Sensibility with Josh, which is a Jane Austen novel. This was a really perfect timing for this buddy read because it's Jane Austen July. I just did a rapid review for this book. I believe it was posted yesterday. So definitely a good 4-star review. Jane Austen has excellent writing. This follows the Dashwood sisters and their escapades with men, and not in that kind of frivolous way, but just the romance and the duty that's involved with, you know, making sure you're making the right marriage alliances and all of that. And now I feel like it's like Hunger Games or something. But anywho, it's very interesting. There's a character in here, Marianne, who just gets my goat. She's so annoying. But it is what it is. I did really like it. I like the writing style, of course, with Jane Austen. It's a classic that everyone should read. So definitely gave this one a 4. I really enjoyed my reading with Josh. Him being someone who hasn't read this before, it was nice to get his perspective. He referred to this book as a soap opera. So true. He was spot on. Like, all they do is gossip and talk and talk and talk and talk. There's so much dialogue in this book. It's crazy, but very, very good. I really appreciate this. This is the book that I actually started as a physical book, and then about, I would say, oh, I can show you, halfway through, I started listening to it on audiobook because I started to make some paper flowers for my wedding, so I needed to not be reading, but also wanting to read. So I found it on audio and was able to listen to the rest of the book. So that was really great. The next 4-star review is another audiobook, and it is the 3rd book in the Winston Brothers series, and that is Beard Science, which follows Cletus, who is my favorite Winston brother. He is so sneaky and maniacal and hilarious, and I was just so happy that we finally get to meet him in more of a first-person narration, because he is amazing. And the person that he ends up with, and I don't want to give too many spoilers away, love her character. She was amazing. I love that in the first 2 books you get a representation of this character and you kind of made your mind up about her, and then this book really just crushes it. It makes you completely think differently, and it was the whole point. So this one was really good. Obviously, it's a romance. It's got some steamy bits in it, but nothing too crazy. And Cletus is just so funny, and I love his character. This one I feel is back to the roots. I mentioned before that the 2nd book was a little off kilter. It didn't seem right. This one really comes back to, you really feel the love in these 2 people. You feel all the shenanigans that they do are really, true to themselves. And this one you really get a good idea about a lot of the other brothers as well, which is really nice. So I really liked this one. Definitely gave it 4 stars, and would recommend this series very much. Penny Reid, who is the author of this series, has done like a spin-off series with this Cletus character and his girlfriend, or whatever they end up being later on in life, which is almost like a cozy mystery. So I'm really excited about that. I think it's something espionage, which is the 1st book, which I think is being released. Either it's already released or it's coming out soon. I'm really excited. The next book that I'm giving 4 stars is also an audiobook, and it is the 4th and final book of the Lunar Chronicles, which is Winter. Now, I literally have 39 minutes left of this audiobook, and I could not give it 5 stars because this book is just entirely way too long. It just kept going and going and going, and I'm going to be so happy to be done with it. Now, that's a double-edged sword, because one, I'm going to be so happy to be done with it because literally, like, I just want this book to be done because I've been listening to it and it just keeps going and going and going. However, I'm going to be so sad I won't have my friends with me anymore. This author does such a nice job. Marissa Meyer does such an amazing job of giving you the full depth of all of her characters. In each book, they have been compounded upon one another so that you understand them to their core. You have Cinder, the cyborg. You have, Prince Kai. You have Winter, who is the princess, and you have Jason Clay and Cress and Captain Thorn and Scarlet and Wolf, and you just learn so much about every one of them that it's gonna be so sad to be done with the series. But at the same time, this book was so long. I literally have 39 minutes left and I need to finish it because I'm like done with it. Like, I'm done listening to it. So I definitely gave it 4, but like a high 4. Even a 4.5 if I really needed to. But very, very good. Excellent writing, excellent story. I never would have thought that I would read these books. I'm so happy that I picked up Cinder, and realistically, I may even reread these at some point. They are so good. And that's all I can really say. So on to my 5-star reviews. Cress from the Lunar Chronicles. So Cress is the 3rd book of the Lunar Chronicles. I also listened to this in audiobook, and by far my favorite from the series. It was so good. I think it was the first time where I really felt completely connected with all of the characters. We got such an insight to each one of them and how they operate and why they operate the way they do that you just fall in love with them even more. And Cress is such an innocent, just wonderful character, and her and Thorn together are just phenomenal characters. I think that their battle, especially their traveling through a certain portion of the book, was amazing. I don't want to give too many spoilers away, but this book, it was just written so well, and everything was a surprise. Every moment and things that would happen to the characters were really just spot on, and the author just did such a wonderful job. So I definitely gave Cress 5 stars. So my final book that I read this month was a physical book, and it was another buddy read. This particular book I read with Scott and Nell over at Gunpowder Fiction and Plot, and let me tell you, I am so happy that I did a buddy read for this book, and I am so happy that I did a buddy read with Scott and Nell. I got to know them so much more, and I am so happy to be considered a friend of theirs. I can't wait to do another buddy read. If you have not gone over to their channel or any of the other channels I've mentioned today, make sure you do. All of the people that I've met on BookTube are amazing. So Scott, Nell, and I read The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde, and OM goodness, this was so good. Oscar Wilde is known more for his poetry, and this book is poetic. There are so many lines that you could literally tear from this book and just stand alone as just some of the most interesting literary devices that just will stick in your mind and just catch you off guard. This book is about art and music, and I mean, it's so, I'm at a loss for words. This book is so good, and I know it's so hard sometimes to, put together your thoughts on a classic. But I have to tell you, if you have not already read this, you need to read this. Now, as you can see, I totally did the whole tabby thing again, and all of these tabs basically represent something that just took me by surprise. So what is this a book about? So The Picture of Dorian Gray is about a young man who sits for a portrait by a friend named Basil. Basil paints the portrait or picture of Dorian Gray and basically sets off this cascading storyline of Dorian's obsession with his youth and his beauty, and the picture really represents him and the fact that he will never be this young again. He will never be in this finite moment. Now, Oscar Wilde was a homosexual. This book was written in the late 1800s, and it very much talks about homosexuality, which was illegal in this time. So for him to be pointing these things out, like, I'm fairly 100% certain that the 3 main characters in this book were homosexual, and they were referencing homosexuality within many circles of which these men, interacted with. So this is something that is so profound and amazing for him to have written at that time. And as a reader now, it's like very, very obvious. But you imagine being a reader back in, what is this, 1890? Yes, published in 1890. And you would have just glossed over it as a friendship or a brotherhood or whatever it is, because that was not accepted at that point in time. It was illegal. It wasn't something that you admitted to or you acknowledged. And it is done in such a smart way that, oh my gosh, this book is so good. Not only that, but the language, the literary style, the captions, the references. Oscar Wilde was so freaking smart. I mean, he has devised such a secret, like it's almost like a secret language that he's used in this book to identify these characters. Oh my gosh. There's so much that happens. There's death and love and passion and regret and hate. And oh my gosh, there's like every single emotion you could possibly imagine is in this book. There's a moment in this book that my jaw literally drops. And I'm just like, the whole time I'm reading, I'm like, what just happened? What just happened? This book is only about 175 pages long. That is short enough for you to read it. You need to read this book. It's so good. I will tell you, there is one chapter that is super boring. He's talking about a bunch of art and a bunch of music and a bunch of stuff. He's basically collecting things, and it's super boring, and it was really hard to get through. There's that one chapter. And the end is a little lackluster, but the book as a whole is entirely worth it. This is definitely a 5-star review. This is definitely a book I will be rereading, and at some point I will figure out why I put all these tabs in there. So, a long video for something that I didn't think was going to be too long, considering I only read 8 books. But overall, I enjoyed the 8 books I did. The buddy reading was top notch this month. So thank you so much to Christy, to Scott and Nell, and to Josh for reading with me this month. It was super fun. I can't wait to read with you all again. And I'm wondering, have any of you read these books? What are your thoughts on these books? Some of these are classics. Some of these are books that maybe you have a passionate opinion about. So let me know in the comments below. This month has been super fun. I'm glad that this is the last day, although you will see me again tomorrow. But yeah, I've had a blast. I'm going to let you go there. But until next time, I hope you are reading something great, taking care, and staying safe. And you know how it goes. Happy reading. Bye.